laid like they used to. I said my edges ain't laid like they used to. I said my edges ain't laid, edges ain't laid. Said my edges ain't laid like they used to.
So I'm up. And a while back, I did a story time with Miss Story. And as I did it, I realized that I left out hella parts. So it was so cool because I actually got to watch myself grow during that video. So I immediately was like, I gotta redo it. So it's like 2:57 in the morning. And so I'm redoing that shit. So let me get halfway. Don't you hate when you do your curls for the girls and it don't come out how you want it? All right, so let me get my little book. Wait a minute. Oh, I got shit in it. All right, so it was a story sent to me, and it was about how does abortion affect fertility? And I was so thankful to get it because this is a topic we need to talk about as queens. You know, where does this stand? How does this affect us? And yeah, I was like, bruh, I appreciate you so much for even giving this to me like this. So let's just jump in. I got my notes on my book, and we're gonna roll right into it. So the story says, I found you on YouTube and I absolutely admire you. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. I have a question about something I've been dealing with. When I was younger, I had multiple abortions because I was in a horrible relationship and I wasn't ready to be a mother, which is something that I'm not proud of, but I don't regret. Now that I've matured and learned how to love myself and learn what real love is, I believe I'm ready to be a mother. I'm in a healthy, loving relationship, and I've been trying to become pregnant, but nothing's working for us. I believe it's something to do with the abortions I had when I was younger. The abortions I had when I was younger. I believe I may have Ashmer syndrome. Is there something I can do to assist me in becoming pregnant? I've never really discussed this with anyone, but I feel really comfortable messaging you. Please help. First off, thank you. Let's start there. Yeah. First off, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for watching. Thank you for feeling comfortable. Just thank you. Because every topic you give, there's a whole bunch of other queens that go through the same thing. So initially, I did the research on what in the world was Ashmer syndrome. Asher syndrome. And so pretty much that's when, due to an abortion, your uterus closes and heals on itself. So it doesn't allow any room for a fetus to grow. Because, you know, there's space inside of your uterus. So I said, okay, I'm not a doctor. And, you know, of course, in order to figure that out, you got to go to a doctor. But I started digging in. So initially, I said, well, let me do my research on abortions to figure out, in fact, does this affect fertility? Let's just get straight into it. And the things that I learned, crazy. So I got to give them to y'all so we can all know and we can learn from this too. So, of course, I found out what kinds of abortions you can have. So the first kind of abortion you can have is a medical abortion. That's when you take something orally and typically around 16 weeks pregnant, and your body rids itself of the baby. That is what is called a medical abortion, and that is the safest abortion. Typically no risk, or what the Western world says is no risk. Then there is a surgical abortion. Now, surgical abortion, of course, when they have to physically enter your body and remove the baby. And that can be done via vacuuming, via dilation and removal of the fetus. And then afterwards, there are things they do to make sure that everything's removed. All right, so that typically happens 14 weeks after you've been pregnant. Now, it says that the only way you can have problems with fertility, this is Western medicine, is if you have a risky or complicated abortion. So they basically saying that abortions are pretty much safe. However, risky abortions are usually not informed to the patient. And this is where it gets interesting. So a sign of a risky abortion is bleeding excessively. So let's say you get an abortion and they say you're supposed to bleed for X amount of time and you overbleed, you won't stop bleeding. That's a sign that you had a risky abortion. If there were any parts left that they could not remove, that is a risky abortion, which is associated with a lot of pain. If they damage any organs around your uterus or any organs associated with the abortion, that is considered a risky abortion, and you're going to have a harder time healing. You may not even know. You may just have a harder time healing, or you may have more pain. Okay, and it was one other thing. If antibiotics are given, which they say typically they give it before and they give you after, if you still show signs of infection, so I guess fever, you feel nauseous, these are signs of a risky abortion, which they're not going to tell you about when you leave. So they say that if you have any of these signs, it could possibly complicate future pregnancies. That's possibly. So this is what they say. So I start to say, okay, well, let's get into the whole pregnancy umbrella. So, because abortion is basically being pregnant and, choosing not to have a full-time baby, and you say, okay, cool, I'm not ready for whatever reason. So I started thinking, under the pregnant umbrella, what could be some of the worst things you could possibly do to your uterus? And come to find out, believe it or not, when it comes to pregnancy, the worst thing you can do to your uterus is get a C-section. And we're not talking about a hysterectomy. We're talking about anything associated with childbirth. Hysterectomy is like when they take it out, but a C-section, a cesarean section, is one of the most traumatic things you could do to your uterus when you have it. The most traumatic. Okay? Now, so they're basically saying that an abortion, you can be fertile after. However, a cesarean section, they recommend that you not even consider having another baby for a whole nother year. They want your body to heal. They want everything to mend properly because they move organs, cut things up. It's traumatic. It is definitely a traumatic experience. And salute to all the women who had a C-section. Salute to all the women who decided to go back and have another baby after having a C-section, because they say the first C-section pretty much means that you could possibly have another one. So even rolling the dice and possibly getting pregnant again, you could have another C-section. All right, so let's get into this. So abortion is less risk than a C-section. Now, there are two different emotions associated with these surgeries. So the woman that gets the worst surgery is seen as a hero, like it's a badge of honor. She did whatever she had to do for her child, regardless. So when she leaves, even though she is hurting, her stomach muscles are messed up, she can't pick up anything, she shouldn't even be having intercourse for a very long time. She can hardly pick up her own child. This woman recovers. This woman is emotionally sound. And this woman actually has other babies. And this is a traumatic, this is surgery cutting the uterus, cutting the abdominal walls, cutting your stomach. This is cutting, tearing, ripping, full-on surgery. However, the less abrasive surgery, a lot of women that have multiple abortions have a harder time having babies. So now I'm like, what in the holy hell? How is this even possible? So I said, this has got to be an emotional thing. This has, in my opinion, now, I've never had an abortion. Let's start there. I've never had a C-section. Let's start there. I have had 2 miscarriages that I needed help with removing a baby. And this is just me being totally open and honest. And I still have 2 babies that I birthed physically. So even after the DNCs and the removals, I still was able to have a baby. And I went through my, you go through your things because, you expected life and it's a different left down and it's a different type of grief. So I said, I got to get into this because there's no way in holy hell women can have a whole C-section and go right back in it and be fertile. And then women that have abortions have a harder time if they have multiple abortions having babies. So I said, okay, now, I got to get into this. Now, I got to get into this. And once we get into this, then I'll talk about a few things you can do to possibly increase your fertility. And I'm going to be basic. I'm not going to be really general. I'm just going to give a few things you can do. All right. So pretty much what I found out is, and this makes total sense. What I found out was that it is the emotional trauma associated with an abortion that makes the woman less likely, if she has multiple abortions, to become fertile in the future, near future, long-term future. This is how it goes. And when you think about it, it makes total sense because it's not the surgery, it's the emotional experience tied to it. Which is why, and I don't mean to sound repetitive, a C-section, I had 3 C-sections, baby. This is all woman. And she can get pregnant again. Not only can she get pregnant again, a lot of women, you'll never hear them saying, girl, I'm worried about, no, they be like, I'm having another baby. We'll see how it goes. Had a C-section before. If I got to do it again, I'll do it again. I love my child. Now, let's talk about abortion because it gets deep. Well, first and foremost, abortion is not new. It started in Kemet. I always tell everybody that mothers, even prior to any big medical institutions, where we made the decision whether we were going to feed you, whether we were going to, raise you, whether we were going to, mothers always have the decision over the child's life. So this dates back to Kemet when the first abortion was documented in 1550 BC it's called the Eder Papyrus. Eder Papyrus. Hopefully I'm saying that right. Okay. So now let's not write out the fact that in third world countries that are a little bit less civilized, that have less medical knowledge than us, women are dying at alarming rates from getting abortions. So when I stress that the Western world says abortions are okay, we have better medical institutions. Just everything is better on this side of the earth. Everything is better. And that ain't no shade. That's just real shit. So, yes, women die all the time from getting abortions in third world countries just because of the procedure. Maybe the lack of medical knowledge, maybe bad institutions, maybe unsanitary conditions, maybe not good follow-up care, a lot of reasons. But so in certain countries, it's taken very serious. In our country, not so much. So I said, I got to get to the bottom of what the fuck is going on? Why are my queens that make decisions like this having a harder time getting pregnant? So this is deep. All right, put your seatbelt on. We going in, baby. We going in. So, when I researched emotional trauma associated with abortion, this is what it said. So it said, loss in general is never a private thing, and mourning and grief is done in public. Like if you would have a regular funeral, it would be done in public. It would not be done in private. You would be able to speak your mind. You would have others around you supporting you. You would usually be in a group environment, and then people could share. And then that is also a way of releasing trauma. Now, what it says is, however, abortions are usually private and offer the woman less time to mourn. So what happens is, this is a huge decision, a very huge decision that you made. Some people may agree, some people may not agree. So you're already going in there with a sense of with a negative energy around you. Then you may have, the other parent that doesn't necessarily agree with your decision. You may have family members that don't agree with your decision. Or this may be something that you decided and you didn't tell anybody. Maybe you just told a best friend, and maybe she doesn't know how to relate. Some women actually go on their lunch break, get an abortion, and come back to work and act like everything is fine. They don't tell anybody. They keep it a secret. There are women that do not allow themselves to even acknowledge that they went through something traumatic. This is the same thing with rape victims, that they never say anything. And these women walk around with a lot of grief, a lot of problems. We found out that some traumas that are associated with like thyroids and endometriosis have to do with a negative self-image, believe it or not, have to do with verbal abuse, have to do with some physical abuse, maybe even sexual abuse. So this gets really deep. You forget that, this is the physical body, and even though you can't see your emotions and you can't see your thoughts, they're very real, and they control a lot of things going on in the temple. So it says, right, women usually go to work after this. Now, you don't have a support system. You don't have a grief counselor. And keep in mind, typically when you have a death in the family, this is somebody that you didn't birth, somebody that you did not create. They recommend grief counseling. They recommend therapy with this. This is people that didn't even come from your body. But anything associated with abortion, you don't tell anybody. It's something that people frown upon and all these other things. So, grief is a process. Grief is a process. When you make very hard or difficult decisions in your life and you don't always know the exact outcome, until you get far away and you look back, you can't really even see that you made the right decision. So, Queens, this is a rough one. This is why I'm so thankful that she brought this to the front so we could chop it up. So it says, guilt is a normal part of the mourning process, but it becomes more intense and complicated when it is in response to a direct decision to terminate a pregnancy. So they're saying that the guilt that people, and this will let you know how strong women are. Let's really get into this. So they basically saying that the guilt you have when you lose a family member, which number one is not your control. Usually you don't have anything to do with that, and you still have to go through hell and high water. They saying guilt that is associated with the response to deciding or terminating a pregnancy is 10 times worse. So we got to acknowledge this. And then us as queens, we push forward. We don't go to get help. We don't talk about it with our friends. And if we do, it's initially. We're not able to even think about that time when we were pregnant, that time when we lost a baby. A lot of times when you go into these abortion clinics, the partner who created the baby is not even present. Sometimes you don't even have a ride. These are the things. These are the things. And some of the older generation frown upon you getting an abortion because they feel as though, you made a life and you should continue with it. But at that point, if you are not ready, like Queen said, to be a mother, if you are not in a good relationship, that was the decision you made. So it says what happens is, and this is deep, that there are stages to grief. We all know it. First is disbelief, then, shock and disbelief. They kind of go hand in hand. Then, if I'm not mistaken, the next step is blame. So then you start blaming people. Then you get into depression. And then after depression, you start to kind of move through it. You start to walk through it. They say if you look up and you in a storm, that means you're going through it. So you don't stop. You just keep going through it. So the problem is a lot of women that do have abortions or multiple abortions get stuck in the grieving process. That's the tricky part, because she wasn't allowed to talk about it. She wasn't allowed to forgive herself. She did not have time to be, to go through mourning, to be sad, to be cried, to even show emotion about it. She beats herself up based on the decision that she made. And like I said, there is no support groups. There's no real place. Like if you wanted to look for it, you would really have to look for it. This is not something that you could really bring to your friends. This is not red table talk. No shade, but real shit. This is not even dinner talk. This is not lunch talk. This is not even, hey, remember that time you got me pregnant? I got that abortion. I'm still mad about that. Sometimes men can't even relate with that. Because to be honest, we're mothers way before the baby comes. Dudes become fathers when the baby shows up. Not saying he doesn't cater to a pregnant woman, but he doesn't feel the signs of growth. He doesn't see the expansion. He doesn't know the emotional roller coasters. He doesn't know the physical changes. He sees them, but he doesn't feel them. So this in a lot of times you are like by yourself. So pretty much what it says is, grief cannot be covered with the replacement of another life too. So in order to properly get through this, and I'm going to tell you where I'm going with this. In order to properly get through this, you have to go through the grieving process. You got to go through the grieving process. You can't say, I had an abortion, so I'm just going to have another baby, and I'm not even going to worry about that. That is wrong. That's like saying, you lost your grandmother, so you're going to go find a random other grandmother and put her in the place of your grandmother. Nobody can take the place of your grandmother. Nobody can take the place of your lost ones. And these are people that you didn't even bear. So basically it's saying that you have to move through this process. You got to move through this process so you can work on the emotional trauma attached to it. Because if people can have C-sections and have other babies, so can you. This is an emotional thing. This is a psychological thing. This is a subconscious thing. You know, that's how they program the subconscious, trauma. So anytime you have trauma, know that you got a lot of baggage back there that you got to work on. And it's okay. We all got it. We all got it. So don't you dare feel like it's just you. It is not you. So right now, I said I'm going to do this research because initially I talked about just the physicality of the abortion, just the physical parts of the abortion. It's deeper than that. And as I spoke, I said, Donna, no. You got to dig in this because this is going to help. So prior to you getting pregnant, you have to move through the grief stage. So you can't just say I'm okay. You can't just say this is my decision and I'm fine with it and I'm not worried about it. You actually have to talk about it. Now, all right, that's like saying sorry for the loss, but okay, so we already talked about that. So in my waist management challenge, we talk about connecting with your womb and connecting with your inner child, because that was like your purest form before she started going through what she went through to give you the negative self-image, to give you low self-esteem, to give you a lack of worth, to make you unable to love yourself. You have to get back to her. So this is healing the womb 101. So what you're going to have to do with your womb and yourself is you're going to have to start honestly, I'm not going to say relive the situation, but you are going to have to speak on it, because you can tell when somebody is stuck in a place on how they talk about it. If people talk about a situation and it's like they still there and they still for those experiences, you know that person is kind of still stuck in that situation. But if they can say, yeah, this is what I went through, and you can have a genuine feeling that this person has moved on, then you go, okay, cool, this person has moved on. So the first thing you have to do is you have to acknowledge it. You have to say, this is what I did. I do feel bad about it. I do feel horrible about it. But however, I know it was best for me. It was best for me because I wasn't ready. I couldn't support life at this time financially. I wasn't stable. I didn't have a good support system. You know, maybe your job prevented you from doing that. Maybe it just wasn't the right time in life. But those decisions were very mature decisions. Now let's get on the other side of abortion. Let's talk about the other side of abortion. There are women that actually carry full-term babies and do not become good mothers. There are actually women who give their children up for whatever reason. This is something that you chose not to do. You chose to wait until your heart and your mind said the time was right. Now, granted, I do not agree with excessive abortions, because that's also a thing that you got to get into. Hey, listen, why do I not feel worthy enough to give myself to a partner that I believe in and support? See, it gets a lot deeper. And let me get into this Queen of Four real fast, because she talks about some things about it too. But before I do, so I told you in the beginning we was going to talk about fertility. There is no miracle fertile pill, right? There are stones that help, crystals that help promote fertility. But to be completely honest, in order to be at your most fertile state, you have to be at your most natural state. That means that you got to start caring for the temple. Now, what does that mean? That means starting with womb wellness. Why? Because all of your emotions, trauma, and feelings, even your intuition, is harbored in your womb. And where do you think you are holding those negative feelings and subconscious things about the abortion in your womb? So this starts with Womb Wellness 101. So what you want to do is, and I always suggest, and a lot of this stuff came straight from Queen of Four, and just learning and being and interacting with other women. Number one, you're going to have a conversation with her. I have a whole poem that a lady wrote to her womb, and she said it. Queen of Four says you need to rub your palms together, create like a sense of heat, place it upon your womb, meditate with her. Let her know everything is okay. Let her know that we didn't, you got to be honest. Because I say you can lie to a lot of motherfuckers. You can't lie to yourself. So if you're not okay with this, your body knows it. Your body knows it. That's why a lot of us come out to the conscious light, because you cannot be the best version of yourself. You cannot ascend. You cannot be a light being if you are in a constant state of turmoil. So that's why a lot of times when things didn't add up to us religiously, we got the fuck out of there because we wanted to be free. Ourselves were smart enough to say, okay, cool. I don't feel good when I'm confused, so fuck the dumb shit. And that's kind of what you got to do with yourself. So you tell yourself, hey, I forgive you. We had to make that decision. It's going to hurt. I'm going to cry. I'm going to think about it. I'm going to relive it at times. But it made me who I am right now. It put me exactly where I am. Exactly where I am right now. And the universe also let me be exactly where I am. And the universe don't make no mistakes. So you forgive her, you let her know, you apologize to her for putting her through so much trauma. You apologize and you let her know that we've gotten stronger. We would never do anything like that. And you have also created a safe space for her. You have a support system and everything. And this is something you can do until it gets easier, until you feel better emotionally about this. Working on past trauma, it's like every time you work on one, you find another one and you find another one. Working on past trauma is like fucking peeling an onion back. It's like layers upon layers upon layers. So when motherfuckers tell you they really healing, like that's a feat in itself. So shout out to anybody that's on a healing path, holistically, mentally, however. Another thing that I also talk about is the chakras. So now, this makes total sense. When your throat chakra is blocked, it's usually associated with grief, unexpressed feelings, anger, and fear. Also, if you have a feeling of dishonesty about you. Look, let's tie it. So, for all my women that had abortions, whether it be one, a lot, chakra work is important. This is important. This is very important. So when you talk about working on the throat chakra, you want to start to express yourself verbally. You want to start to figure out what you want. Figure out how you want things to, and don't feel bad for expressing how you feel. don't feel bad about saying, hey, I was really scared when that happened, or I was really angry at myself. I had to forgive myself, unrepressed feelings being that, I wasn't ready, or I wish I had somebody in the room to help me. I wish I had more of a support system. Or let's get into this, and I do not want to tear up because I never do that. Or let's talk about the fact that maybe I'm digging into my own shit. If this tear come out, y'all, if this tear come out, whoo. And we're not even going to get into the fact that a lot of people had to have abortions because of maybe a rape situation, maybe a statutory rape situation. You know what I'm saying? It just gets so deep. It gets so deep. And that's why I had to do this video by myself. I couldn't do it on live because I wanted to stay focused and really talk about this from the heart. Grief. And remember, you can't get stuck in the process of grief. So grief is something you got to move through. So if you find yourself getting down, sad, depressed too long, you know that you're stuck. So you have to figure out ways to kind of move yourself through it, whether it be creativity, music therapy, crystal therapy, art therapy. If you want to use color therapy, I think it's called cryotherapy. If you want to use colors, if you want to find a way to express yourself, maybe you need to start journaling. Maybe you want to write a book. Maybe you want to write a poem about it. And let me do you one better. Maybe you want to go on Facebook and start a support group. Trust me, it's a lot of women that went through this. Trust me on that. Like, maybe, you know what they say, your trial could be somebody else's testimony. I don't know exactly how they say it, but y'all know what the fuck I'm talking about. So these are the things you got to do. You got to talk to her. In our waist measurement group, we talk about writing a letter to your womb. Writing a letter to your womb. Letting her know you're in a much better place. Tapping into that innocent girl. Tapping into those feelings that you felt when it actually happened, and releasing those feelings. You may got to do some meditating. You may need to do some spiritual baths. You may need to get up and figure out a morning ritual that works for you. Maybe you should get up and meditate and things like that, just to release some of this trauma. All right, so now that we have addressed the fact that it is tied with a lot of emotional stuff, like I mentioned before, there is no fountain of youth. There is no fertility pill that is natural. So the only way you can prepare your body to hold a child and birth the child is to get back to your most natural state. That is the key. So, the throat chakra. It says, throat chakra. Also, you want to sing, you want to talk, you want to verbally express yourself, you want to use your voice in ways that matter. This is how you unlock your throat chakra. And as you're doing that, you find yourself talking about things that you held in, and then bang, you're on your way to healing. All right, so what Queen Afua mentions is she basically says that you want to do a lot of beans. You want to eat beans, you want to eat seeds, you want to eat nuts, you want to eat berries. You want to eat green leafy vegetables, whole grains. Let me just say this, even though I know weed is from the earth, it can affect your fertility and you and your partner. So you want to abstain if that's your vice. If you are trying to prepare your body to give birth, you want to abstain from that. She also recommends that carbohydrates should be only eaten 3 to 4 times a week. She says that you want to definitely increase your mineral intake. Himalayan sea salt is a really good way. It has 80 minerals. Yes, I wrote that on my board. 80 minerals. It also says you want to eat sea moss. I got 2 chicks that do sea moss. I'll put them in the link of this video. You want to start, sea moss. She also says that you want to start entering flaxseed in your diet. You want to increase your vitamin B, C, and E. She also recommends you start to intake green juice. And I'm not talking about the shit you get from the store. I'm talking about you might need to get yourself a good old blender and start blending. She also recommends, it's called like a womb berry smoothie. And let me make sure I remember what it is. It's strawberries, raspberries, cranberries, apple juice, Strawberry, raspberry, cranberry, apple juice. And if did I say cranberry? Strawberry, raspberry, cranberry, apple juice. Yes, and it's some other thing that you can do on a regular basis. Green juice would be, you putting kale and apple juice, and just so you can start intaking that chlorophyll from the plants. Y'all know the melanin works wonders. You want to go out, you want to get vitamin D, real vitamin D, which is really hard right now, but all right. She also says you want to lessen your dairy, because y'all know the dairy fucks us up really bad. The dairy is the endometriosis, the tumors, all of that stuff. Because basically what it does is it takes your body out of an alkaline state and it increases your mucus. And Sabi, Queen of Four, all the greats said that there is no disease. The only disease that you can have is excess mucus. So too much mucus built up can cause tumors in the breast. Too much mucus in the lining of the uterus can cause all those uterine problems. Too much mucus in the sinus problem. You can have problems with that. And pretty much. So you want to be as alkaline as possible. You want to start drinking alkaline water. If you don't want to go purchase alkaline water, you can put a bit of Himalayan sea salt, a lime or a lemon in some water. Drink that on a regular basis. Boom. Just start adding lemons to your water. All right. She also says you want to limit the amount of carcinogens. Lunch meat, I think cereal is one of them. She also says you want to get rid of the swine. So if you're eating bacon on a regular basis, you need to go ahead and throw that out. Let me just read Let me just read this quick thing from Queen of Fool's book because I referenced it a lot. So some good pages in the Sacred Woman book that you can read about abortion is page 47, Sacred Woman page 53, and also Sacred Woman page 328. Those are all the pages that reference abortion. Now let me get into this one passage because I had to get that out. All right, let me read. If a woman is damaged in any way, if it has experienced heavy menstrual bleeding, PMS, if it's substantial numerous infections, fibroids, or tumorous growths, if a womb area has been cut or bruised, irritated, chemically sprayed, if it has experienced invasion or abuse by a sexual partner, if it has been harmed by abortions or hysterectomies, then a woman's level of creativity, inspiration, stability, successful relationships, fertility levels, and joy are potentially impaired. So, anytime you have trauma to the uterus, it can affect your fertility. However, you can heal from all of these things. So this is what she mentions. Now let me jump to page 53, where it's a really, really, really good, and we already discussed that. Page 53. I'm sorry I'm keeping y'all so long, but this thing is good. This is such a good topic, and I'm just so thankful that we could discuss it. All right, so here we are. 328. All right, real fast. And it's page 328, and it's called A Warning for the Womb. It says, a sister called me from Atlanta, Georgia, weeping over the phone. She said, I just finished having my 11th abortion. I was silent for that moment because I caught my breath. Then we began to talk back and forth, and she quickly processed her profound pain over the phone. All of the pregnancies were from the same man, she went on. Do you think this sister was loving herself, or that she knew how to love or care for her burdened womb? Do you think for a moment her lover or her boyfriend was loving her or even knew how to love himself? This sister needed to reestablish and reevaluate her divine self-worth. And of the many lives who were created through her womb and who were returned back to the divine source of all things, this beloved sister was bound to a low self-esteem. She needed desperately to take a long fast of intimacy and to lift up love, purity, and heal as she opened herself to intimacy, caring union, into an intimate, caring union with her divine self. So Queen Afua pretty much says that self-love, 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 forgiveness is a part of that healing. And it also says, reading from Queen Afua, page 329, it says, my self-love letter. This love letter will strengthen, reinforce, and remind you of the love that you have for yourself. By reading your love letter daily, weekly, monthly, according to your needs, you will strengthen and reinforce the love you have for you. As you grow and you are the recipient of the gift of love, you may be inspired to write other love letters just with this flow. Dear Spirit of the Most High, the universe, Most High, whatever God you pray to, whatever happens to me in my life up to now, it's okay. I know that you can turn what now seems bad into good. Show me that what happened was a lesson and that I don't need to love myself any less for it. On this day, I'm writing a letter to myself, and I will observe the boundless blessings that this presents to me. One of my queens in my waist measurement challenge said the best saying ever yesterday. She said that regardless of what happens, she says, everything is working in my favor. Everything is helping me. And when you change the mind and you start to release the trauma, all the blessings, all the abundance will come. A few stones you can actually, that letter is good as shit, ain't it? Wasn't that a good ass letter? Goodness, I gotta write that somewhere. All right, so pretty much there are a few stones you can do too. Moonstone is supposed to help. Lapis lazuli is supposed to help with womb wellness. Amethyst is supposed to cure all mental and physical illnesses. And rose quartz is also good to put on your womb to promote self-love, confidence, a better self-image, as well as aventurine, which is a stone that kind of calls out abundance and prosperity. So, queens, we all healing together. This is the dopest shit ever. Thank you for riding with me. I got so many things I'm doing now. So, because of the social distancing thing, and like I said, I refuse to keep talking about this shit because I get it. I got it. Y'all know how I feel about it. I got another video. Boost your moon system. Sea moss, moringa, all that other good stuff. But I am now going to be giving waist bead Zumba virtual classes. I would love for you to join me. I would love for you to join me because what I've learned in this waist measurement journey, and I feel like I'm on my 8th or 9th one, like I mentioned before, you got to take care of the temple emotionally. You got to take care of the temple physically. That's the movement. And you also got to eat right. Drink a lot of water, get a lot of good sleep, which I'm not doing because it's 3:39 and I can't sleep. But I'm just one of those type of girls. It's in another video. You go ahead and find it. So I hope this helped. I really, really hope this helped. I really hope this helped. Please comment below with anything that you may think of that can help this video, help another queen, or you just agree, just ashe in the comments. I appreciate y'all so much. I'm so thankful for the queen that gave us this letter. And thank you again for another story time with Miss Story. So y'all know I got the waist beads on deck. I'm Waist Beads 101. Womb Wellness 101. Please go check out my site. Go follow me on IG. Follow me on Facebook. And guess what? I got a dope-ass women's group. It's called Women and Waist Beads on Facebook. Please jump in there. That's an open forum. So it ain't just me running my mouth, which I think it's cool for me to run my mouth. But sometimes I want to hear other shit. So jump in there. Jump in there. I mean, shit, I need administrators and all of that. So if you open to help, I would love for you to help. So thank you so very much. And the weekly Zumba, Waist Bead Zumba classes are going to be jumping. All you need is your Zoom app. And if you're interested, jump in the comments below. I appreciate you. Thanks for staying up with me on Story Time with Miss Story. Thank y'all.
Easy. Girl, take it 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 easy. Woo!